Hello everybody and welcome to a new season of Sunday Morning Manager. I'm Zev.
I'm Heffy Wiggle. Welcome back to the NHL.
Yeah, it was a long summer for us Leaf fans after a complete and utter collapse, but we are looking forward to the new season. We've got new players, we've got a new What?
Zev, you're not going to believe this.
What?
They locked out the players.
Now what?
Libel and slander are both types of defamation. I did not know that.
Yeah. Hey, you're not so handsome anymore now, are you, Jack? Yeah, that's what I thought.
How many times do I have to edit this Wikipedia article before they accept it?
Oh, Gimli. Why do you hate the elves so much? I mean, they're tall, and they're pretty, and you're short, and you're ugly, and... Oh, now it makes sense. Screw you, Bergman.
Wait, Seth, wake up!
What?
They're playing again!
I was never worried.
Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
And we're back. For real this time. Surprisingly, they did not kill an entire season once again. So here we are, Zev,
Heffy Wiggle.
Sunday Morning Manager, an abbreviated season for an abbreviated season. So, what are we going to talk about? Well, the two big things that have been flying around Leafland, Roberto Luongo and Brian Burke.
That's right. Brian Burke fired right before the start of training camp. Sev, what do you think?
It was inevitable. I hate to sound like a broken record. The timing is very strange, but this was going to happen sooner or later. I mean, the meltdown at the end of last year, the firing of Ron Wilson, and the bringing in of Randy Carlyle, it was obvious that Burke had essentially run out of cards to play. The one thing about this entire situation that I really, really wish that the sports media would stop talking about is the supposed 5-year plan. Because you can go to any tape, any interview you want. Brian Burke never said he had a 5-year plan. That was something that the sports media spun out of whole cloth just so they'd have some kind of talking point to hang over the subject every time. I wish people would stop bringing it up. He wasn't canned because the 5-year plan didn't work, because the 5-year plan never existed. He was fired because you had new ownership, you just had a terrible end to last season, and obviously things need to go in a new direction. And from what I've heard, Burke is apparently going to be staying on in some kind of an advisory role because he does have very close ties to Dave Nonis. I don't know, but this was going to happen either this year or next year. There really wasn't any way about it.
It's true. I mean, people were saying how shocked they were. But when I heard the news, it was kind of like, well, yeah, they've been out of the playoffs for 9 years, 4 of them under Burke. At some point, you've got to stop blaming bad luck, injured players, and the responsibility has to fall on someone. The losing didn't improve when you got on board, so I'm sorry. But Brian Burke staying on board as a senior advisor, basically, he's out. Let's just call it what it is. They don't want to pay a severance package, so he's going to basically stay on as a nobody, pretty much.
Now, of course, we have to come to the inevitable rumor that has been flying out. Thank you very much, TSN and Sportsnet. Burke was fired because he wouldn't make the Luongo trade.
This makes me want to stab every hockey analyst on that channel in the eye with a rusty penknife. I mean, seriously. Seriously? Do you honestly think that Burke was fired because he wouldn't trade Jake Gardiner, Morgan Rielly, Nazem Kadri, and basically 5 other prospects that the Canucks wanted for a head case that has never won a really, truly meaningful playoff game?
Yeah, now let's not make light of this thing. You know, I mean, every goalie's a head case. And Roberto Luongo, on any given day, he's one of the top 5 goaltenders in the league. But, you know, he has had trouble winning big games. As we talked about last year, losing to the Kings was obviously not his fault. That was a team thing. But there's also that 10-year millstone hanging around his neck. He's 33. He's, as far as goaltenders go, you're looking at, on average, 5, maybe 6 good, productive years out of him. And the last couple are 50-50. Obviously, you've got guys like Marty Brodeur, played till he's 40, but these guys are very, very rare. And we don't know about Luongo. He has had injury problems in the past. We don't know. Thing is, that's a huge contract, and it's a huge asking price. And honestly, if he was fired because that was the ultimatum from ownership, no one is going to take the GM's job there, because they know that they essentially have to give up the farm. And let's be honest here, as much as you can criticize Brian Burke for some of the moves he's made, he's done a very good job of rebuilding the cupboard when it comes to the Marlies. And you're going to toss all that away to get a goaltender whose contract will be an absolute anchor to the team.
This does sound like it would be one of the Leafs' horrible moves. Brings to mind Macaulay for Nolan. But let's be honest here. Dave Nonis is not as retarded as John Ferguson Jr.
No, we are not going to see a first-round pick for Vesa Toskala. We are not going to see Tuukka Rask for Andrew Raycroft. You know, I mean, this is not going to happen. You know, we saw what that kind of deal can do to your hockey team, and I just don't understand. I get it. You have to have, it's a 24-hour news cycle. You have to have something, but you've got to give me something more plausible than that.
I don't think anyone is actually on the Leafs ownership in that 20-person GM role is actually that ridiculous.
No, because if you look at it right now with the current situation with Toronto, they are in one of the best positions coming into this summer and next summer when it comes to cap space and free agency. And Roberto Luongo's contract would absolutely sink that. Remember, when Chicago won the Stanley Cup, they were under the salary cap. It wasn't that summer they were worried about. It was the next summer. Because when they had to re-sign all their players, and that's what would happen with Toronto. The cap would drop significantly. They would have an enormous amount dedicated to one player, and they would have just given up a whole bunch of young talent that they could have brought in to plug in the holes in the roster when they started letting the older, more expensive players go. One contract can sink your team very, very easily.
I would rather go into this season with a healthy, unconcussed, maybe a bit unstable, but solid on his good days, James Reimer, than Roberto Luongo with the albatross of a contract that would, like you said, just sink the team's prospect pool for God knows how many years.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, that wraps it up for today. We're looking forward to giving you another, well, I guess you could call it a full season if the NHL is going to. Season of hockey, training camp is starting. They just released the schedule. We'll get to next week. We'll look at the Leafs. We'll look at the East. We'll look at the West. Who do we like? Who do we don't like? And whether or not we're going to shoot ourselves at the end of the year.
We'll see you next week, guys. I'm Heffy Wiggle.
I'm Sev.
Welcome back.